Right, get those creative juices flowing because today we're diving into the world of footwear design.
Ooh, fun.
It's where, art meets those really cool sneakers that you see everyone wearing.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at this career guide, Footwear Designer from RoleCatcher,
Okay.
and also checking out their website, seeing how, what kind of tips they have for actually landing a job as a footwear designer.
Yeah, because it is a pretty competitive field.
Definitely. And I think one thing that this guide really emphasizes that I thought was really interesting is how important like market analysis is.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not enough to just be like, oh, I think this is cool or I like this color. You really need to understand like what's trending, why it's trending.
And what's going to be trending, yeah.
Exactly. And even, what materials are going to be both on trend and sustainable, which is something that huge right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that the guide mentions is creating these mood boards. Have you ever like messed around with those?
I've definitely made some for like, decorating my apartment. I don't know about shoes,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to think about it in that context.
Yeah, so these are essentially like, collages, images, textures, even like taking those color palettes and sort of smushing them all together to help designers visualize a particular theme or trend that they want to work with.
So it's like they're creating a visual language
Exactly.
for this collection of shoes.
And not just for like a single shoe, but like a whole line, right?
A whole feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
So going from that visual language, you also need the technical skills, right? You can't just like make a poster board and be like, here's my shoe. Right. You're like, how are we actually going to make this thing?
Exactly. And that's where the guide talks about these like 3D prototypes,
Yeah.
which I guess that's like taking those initial sketches and turning them into something that you can actually...
More tangible, right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like that digital blueprint, essentially.
Okay.
But that also makes me think about, you can't just be like artsy and creative. You have to also understand like the manufacturing process,
Right.
what will actually work, the materials.
Absolutely. You think about all of it.
Yeah, so you're designing for aesthetics, but also like durability.
Yeah. Does it actually like function as a
Yeah.
shoe?
Exactly. Yeah. Does it fall apart when you like step on the sidewalk? We
Yeah.
don't want that.
Right.
But then thinking even beyond that, there's the whole business side of things,
Oh, for sure.
which I feel like a lot of creatives maybe don't think about at the beginning.
Totally.
But, that's where those strong communication skills come in, especially when you're presenting your collections, whether it's to, clients or even the manufacturers who are going to be making the shoes.
And you have to like really be able to articulate why you made the choices that you made.
Exactly. You're not just a designer. You're an advocate
Oh, yeah.
for your vision.
And you have to be able to fight for it, especially if like a manufacturer says, oh, we can't do that. You have to be able to say like, but why?
Exactly. Or how can we make this work? Or is there an alternative? So it's really interesting.
It's a lot more than just like sitting in a room and sketching, huh?
No, definitely not. I mean, even taking that emphasis on trend forecasting, you were talking about that a little bit ago, that reflects just how fast-paced this industry is.
Yeah.
Like, think about how often shoe trends change.
Oh my gosh, constantly.
Constantly. Yeah, it's really important to stay ahead of that.
That makes you think like what kind of company or brand would be the best fit? Because you could be a super small company that's like really, reacting to trends very quickly, or a larger one that's maybe setting the trends themselves.
Right, or maybe somewhere in between. There's so many options.
Yeah, what speaks to you?
And the guide actually, like, goes a little bit deeper into some of those options.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah, so they outline this typical career progression for a footwear designer.
It's kind of like leveling up in a video game, right? Except you're leveling up your shoe design skills.
And instead of, like, fighting bosses, you're perfecting those prototypes.
Exactly.
So the guide, it actually, like, lays out those different experience levels.
Okay.
And it starts with, like, your entry-level positions, like a junior footwear designer.
Makes sense.
But even at that entry level, it's really cool to see how hands-on it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not just, like, getting coffee or making copies all day.
Oh, thank goodness.
They're actually jumping into the design process, like, right away, assisting those more senior designers.
So they're learning by doing.
Exactly.
I feel like that's such a good way to learn.
Especially in a field like this, getting that mentorship early on.
Yeah, and the guide emphasizes, too, like contributing to that trend analysis that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So they're not just, like, observing from the sidelines. They're really in it.
They're in the trenches, yeah.
Totally.
And speaking of in the trenches, As you kind of progress, maybe you move up to an assistant footwear designer role. That's where you get a little bit more autonomy.
Okay, so you're not just assisting anymore.
Yeah, you're kind of like spreading your wings a little bit.
Okay.
You're conducting like more of your own independent trend analysis. You're developing footwear concepts, maybe with a little less supervision. You're taking more of an active role in that prototyping
So it's
process.
like they give you the reins a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, you get to like test things out, make some mistakes, learn from them.
That's so important, though, to be able to, like, actually own the process a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. And, this is a fast-paced industry. Things are changing constantly, so it
Yeah.
makes you think, like, how do these designers stay ahead of the curve?
That's a good question, because it does seem like, 1 minute something's in, and then it's out.
Totally. Yeah, and the guide actually really emphasizes the importance of continuous learning.
Okay, so it's not just like you go to school and then you're done.
No, 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 no. This is like you are constantly learning. You are a sponge,
Oh, wow.
soaking up knowledge. Yeah. And
Okay.
that can take a lot of different forms. The guide mentions attending workshops, going to industry events.
I bet those are really cool.
I'm sure, yeah, you get to meet other designers, maybe see some cool new materials, techniques.
And network probably, too.
Yeah. Huge, huge part of it.
Yeah, not even just networking, but just seeing what other people are doing.
Yeah, totally, getting inspired.
Yeah.
And the guide also mentions like online forums, industry
This is
publications.
a mix of, like, that in-person stuff, but then also just, like, being plugged in digitally.
Exactly. And that makes a lot of sense given how globalized this industry is now.
Oh, for sure.
Trends are emerging from everywhere, so being able to see what's happening, not just in your city, but all over the world.
Yeah, you don't want to be stuck in a bubble.
Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of staying connected and not being in a bubble, that actually makes me think about how RoleCatcher is using technology to help people in this field too.
Oh, that's perfect, because we were just talking about, all those different ways that you can stay up to date as a footwear designer.
And how competitive it is.
And how do you actually land a job, which, that's the whole point, right?
Right. Like, how do you actually get your foot in the door?
Exactly. And RoleCatcher, from what I've seen on their website, it seems like they're really trying to use tech to make that process a little less daunting,
So instead of like just scrolling through endless job boards,
which can be so demoralizing.
the worst, right? They use AI to kind of analyze your skills and then match you with like the right opportunities.
So it's like more targeted, which I feel like would be such a relief as someone who's like actively job searching.
Yeah, instead of just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks,
Oh my gosh.
this is like, you have a target, you're aiming for it.
I love that. Being strategic with your spaghetti.
Yeah. And speaking of being strategic, we have to talk about this, like AI-powered CV analysis tool they have.
Okay, I was like really intrigued by this when I saw it on the website.
Tell me more. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's basically like you upload your CV
Okay.
and it gives you feedback on potential skill gaps,
Mm.
like based on the jobs that you're interested in.
So it's not just like general feedback, it's really tailored
Yeah, it's very
for
slimming,
what you want to do.
which I imagine is super helpful because you can be like, oh, I didn't even realize that like this particular program was really important for this kind of design
Yeah, or that like maybe you were downplaying a certain skill that you have.
that you didn't even think was a big deal.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
And especially in such a visual field too, like your portfolio is so important.
Oh, yeah, that's your bread and butter, really.
It is. And speaking of portfolios, something that the guide emphasizes, it's not just about like how good your designs look, but
Mhm.
also showing your understanding of, sustainability, responsible materials.
So it's like baking that into your portfolio, showing that you have that awareness. It's like you're not just selling a product, you're selling a process.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's becoming more and more important to consumers too.
Oh, absolutely. People
Yeah.
want to know, like, where did this come from? How was it made? What was the impact?
Totally. Transparency is key. And
Mhm.
speaking of connections, I think it's so interesting how RoleCatcher bakes that into their platform as
Oh,
well.
they have a whole, like, networking component, right?
Yeah, so it's not just about like finding the jobs, but it's also about connecting with people.
Okay.
So they have tools where you can like import your existing contacts, organize them by, maybe what industry they're in or how relevant they are to your search.
That's smart.
And then it even like helps you keep track of those interactions.
Oh, that's huge because I know, like, I'll meet someone at an event and then like completely forget to email them, you know?
The worst.
So this is like keeping you accountable.
Yeah, it's like that little nudge, like, hey, maybe you should reach out to this person.
I'd love a little digital nudge.
And then they even have a feature where you can like link your contacts to specific job applications so you can see like, oh, I know someone who works at this company.
Ooh, that's smart. Like a little like in, you know?
Exactly, exactly. It's all about like, working smarter, not harder, right?
Totally. But I feel like even with all of that, even if you have the perfect CV, the connections, the amazing portfolio, there's still that hurdle of the interview.
The interview, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Right. And I was really impressed by like how much RoleCatcher focuses on interview prep.
Yeah, they go all in, which I appreciate.
They have like this massive library of practice questions.
Oh, wow.
But what I thought was really cool is they're not just like generic interview questions. They're tailored to like specific careers, even like specific skills within those careers.
So it's not just tell me about yourself. It's like, tell me about yourself as a footwear designer.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
And then they even have this like AI-powered feedback system where you can like practice answering the questions. It'll give you suggestions.
Oh, that's
Like, oh, maybe you should like, emphasize this more. Or maybe you're using too many ums.
like a virtual interview coach.
Totally, totally. It's amazing.
It's really impressive how comprehensive it is.
It really is. And, it makes me think like they really thought of everything to like prepare someone.
Yeah, like they're really trying to set you up for success.
Exactly.
It's not just about like getting you in the door, but it's like, we want you to nail this interview.
We want you to get the job. And so it's like all of that combined, the guide, the website, it paints a very clear picture of like, this is a career path that requires, creativity, obviously, but also like a lot of hustle, a lot of business sense.
And a willingness to like constantly be learning and evolving.
Yes, constantly. And so for any aspiring footwear designers out there, listening to this, thinking, oh, that sounds amazing. It is an amazing career path. But just like go in with your eyes wide open.
Be prepared, yeah.
Be prepared to work hard. And if this is something that you're really passionate about, then go for it.
Yeah, and remember, there are resources out there like RoleCatcher to help you.
Exactly. All right, well, on that note, we're going to, step away from the microphone for now, but
Yeah.
keep sketching, keep innovating, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you next time.